The morning started like any other at Charlotte Douglas International Airport. Marcus Lawson stood at the North American Airways counter, his carry-on sitting 3 pounds over the limit. He'd packed carefully 3 bottles of North Carolina bourbon for his Atlanta clients, a laptop with his presentation materials, nothing excessive, just business. Sarah Collins didn't look up from her screen when he approached. Her fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced indifference. The kind of rhythm that comes from processing hundreds of passengers who all blur together into one faceless mass. 53 pounds, she said flatly. 3 over. Fee is $50. Marcus kept his voice polite, professional, the same tone he used with his own employees at Lawson Logistics. I understand there's a fee, ma'am. I was hoping you might help me rearrange some items. It's mainly client gifts that pushed it slightly over. Sarah's fingers stopped moving. She looked up then, really looked at him. Her eyes traveled from his khaki pants to his navy polo to his comfortable walking shoes. She made a decision in that instant. The wrong decision? Sir, I'm not your personal packing service. Her voice carried across the gate area, sharp, dismissive. Pay the fee or step aside. The businessman behind Marcus shifted his weight. A woman with her teenage daughter exchanged uncomfortable glances. The morning noise of Terminal C continued around them, but their small corner grew quiet, tense. Marcus tried again. His father had taught him patience, taught him that respect costs nothing and pays dividends. I fly this route monthly for business. Usually the staff is helpful with minor adjustments. Usually staff don't have to deal with passengers who can't follow basic baggage. Rules? Sarah's fingers drummed on the counter, impatient, annoyed. Some of us have quotas to meet. Marcus felt something shift in his chest, a familiar weight, the kind that comes from being seen but not recognized. Judged before being known, he kept his voice steady. Of course, I apologize for the inconvenience. Perhaps we could just... I don't know what kind of discount website you use to book this ticket, Sarah interrupted. But this isn't Southwest. We have standards here. The teenage girl behind Marcus whispered, "Oh my God," to her mother. A man in a business suit pulled out his phone, started recording. The weight in Marcus's chest grew heavier. "Excuse me," Marcus said quietly. "You heard me?" Sarah's voice rose slightly. Defensive now, doubling down. "Either pay $50 or find an airline more suited to your budget. Some people think they can charm their way out of fees." Marcus blinked slowly. His hands remained at his sides, relaxed, but his knuckles had gone white. "Ma'am, I simply asked for assistance, rearranging items in my luggage. And I told you that's not my job." Sarah grabbed his boarding pass, slammed it down harder than necessary. "Maybe next time travel lighter. Or try Greyhound." The businessman behind Marcus muttered, "This is bullshit," under his breath. A woman in line started typing rapidly on her phone. The teenage girl stared in shock. The moment crystallized, hardened into something that couldn't be taken back. Marcus stood perfectly still. His jaw muscle twitched once, twice. His voice, when he spoke, remained level, professional. The same voice he used to close million-dollar deals. "I see." He reached into his wallet, pulled out a credit card. The black American Express Centurion card caught the fluorescent light. Sarah grabbed it without looking, swiped it through the system. $50 approved instantly. There was that so hard. She dropped the card on the counter instead of handing it back. "Your flight leaves from gate B47. Boarding starts at 8:10. Marcus picked up his card, slid it back into his wallet, took his boarding pass. "Thank you for your assistance." His tone remained polite, respectful, but something had shifted in his posture. In the set of his shoulders, the businessman behind him looked angry enough to speak up. The mother and daughter watched with obvious sympathy. Several passengers had their phones out now, recording, witnessing. Sarah had already moved on to the next customer, completely unaware that the quiet man in khakis had just paid her fee with a credit card requiring a 7-figure net worth to obtain. Unaware that her assumptions about discount websites and budget airlines had just insulted the CEO of a company that generated $12 million in annual freight bookings with North American Airways. Unaware that her career had just ended. Marcus stepped away from the counter. The businessman didn't move forward. "Excuse me, miss, but that was completely inappropriate." Sarah's head snapped up. "I'm sorry, what? The way you just treated that gentleman? Completely unprofessional." The businessman stood his ground, mid-50s, expensive suit, the kind of frequent traveler who knows airline policies and customer service standards. He asked a simple question about rearranging luggage. "Sir, I need you to mind your own business and step forward for processing. My business is watching you discriminate against customers." He held up his phone, and I got most of it recorded. The woman with the teenage daughter nodded. "That was really uncool what you said to him." Other passengers in line began murmuring. Someone said discrimination loud enough to carry. A man in a pilot's uniform 3 counters down glanced over with interest. Sarah felt the scrutiny building like pressure behind her eyes. "I treated him exactly the same as every other customer," Sarah announced to the growing audience. "Some people expect special treatment just because they complain." "Special treatment?" The businessman's voice rose. "He asked you to help rearrange his luggage. That's standard customer service. Standard customer service doesn't include personal packing assistance for passengers who can't follow weight limits." Sarah's voice carried across the gate area now. Some people need to learn to travel within their means. A young woman behind the mother-daughter pair started typing furiously. Her thumbs moved rapidly across her phone screen, definitely posting to social media. Marcus stood near the departure board, listening to strangers defend him. He pulled out his phone, appeared to check messages. Actually opened his voice recorder app, started capturing the escalating confrontation. "Ma'am, there's no need to be rude," the mother said, stepping closer to the counter. "My daughter and I heard everything. You were way out of line." "Out of line." Sarah's voice hit a higher pitch. "I'm doing my job. Some passengers think they can charm their way out of fees with sob stories about client gifts." The teenager whispered loudly to her mother, "Mom, can you believe she's still going?" Sarah heard the whisper, saw the phone recordings, noticed other passengers gathering to watch. The pressure made her double down instead of backing off. "You know what? I've been doing this job for 6 years. I know exactly what kind of passenger tries to talk their way out of fees." She pointed in Marcus's direction without looking at him. "Discount tickets, budget travelers. Always trying to bend the rules." Dead silence fell over the immediate area. The businessman with the recording phone stared at her in disbelief. "Did you just say what I think you said?" "I said what I said." Sarah crossed her arms. "Some people need to fly airlines more suited to their financial situation." "Holy shit," someone muttered from the back of the line. A gate agent, 2 counters down, started walking over. Her name tag read Jennifer Martinez, supervisor. Marcus continued recording everything. Noted the security camera mounted directly above the counter. Noted the growing crowd. Noted that Sarah Collins appeared completely unaware that she was destroying her own career in real time. That's when Captain James Wilson rounded the corner. He moved through Terminal C with the confident stride of a man who'd flown for 20 years, Navy uniform crisp, flight bag over his shoulder. He recognized the figure by the departure board immediately. His face lit up with genuine pleasure. "Mr. Lawson, good to see you again, sir." Marcus looked up from his phone. A real smile crossed his face. The first since he'd approached Sarah's counter. "Captain Wilson, good morning." Wilson approached with his hand extended. They shook firmly, the kind of handshake between men who know each other, respect each other. "What brings you to Charlotte today, sir?" "Business in Atlanta. Client meeting at 10:30. Hoping to wrap up a major logistics contract." Every passenger near the counter froze. The businessman with the recording phone stared. The mother and daughter exchanged shocked glances. Jennifer Martinez, still managing the Sarah situation, turned to watch. Sarah Collins stood perfectly still behind the counter. Color drained from her face as she processed what she was witnessing. "Logistics contract," Wilson grinned. "Still expanding operations." 6 states now. Marcus's voice carried easily across the suddenly quiet area. "Just opened our Memphis facility last month. 412 employees as of last Friday. Outstanding, sir. Absolutely outstanding." Wilson glanced around, noticed the crowd of passengers watching their conversation. His smile faded slightly. "Is everything all right here? You look like something's wrong." "Just a minor misunderstanding about luggage weight." Marcus kept his tone light. Professional, nothing that couldn't be resolved. Wilson's pilot-trained eyes took in the scene immediately. Upset passengers, phones recording, supervisor dealing with gate agent problems. His expression hardened as he pieced together what happened. Minor misunderstanding about luggage. The businessman stepped forward. "Captain, your gate agent was completely inappropriate to this gentleman. Told him to try Greyhound. Said he should find an airline more suited to his budget." Wilson's face transformed. Professional courtesy became barely controlled anger. "She said what?" Sarah finally found her voice. Weak, shaky. "Captain Wilson, I was just following standard procedures." "Standard procedures." Wilson turned to face her directly. "Did you tell Mr. Lawson to try Greyhound?" Marcus raised a hand gently. "Captain, it's really no, sir. With respect, it's not all right." Wilson's military bearing became more pronounced. "Sarah, do you understand who you just insulted?" Sarah's mouth opened. No words came out. She looked at Marcus, then back at Wilson. Then at the growing crowd of witnesses. Her face had gone pale. "Mr. Lawson is CEO of Lawson Logistics Corporation," Wilson announced clearly. "One of our most valued corporate customers, platinum frequent flyer for 8 years. And from what I'm hearing, you told him to ride the bus." The teenage girl whispered, "Oh my God," to her mother. Someone in the crowd said, "Holy shit," under their breath. The businessman with the phone grinned with satisfaction. Sarah tried to speak. I didn't know. He didn't say he was." "Shouldn't have to say," Wilson snapped. "Every passenger deserves basic courtesy regardless of their appearance or status." Marcus stepped forward calmly. "Captain Wilson, I appreciate your concern, but, sir, is there anything I can do to make this right? Any assistance you need?" "Thank you, but the fee has been paid. The situation is resolved. The fee," Wilson's anger returned. "You charged him an overweight fee." Marcus pulled his boarding pass from his pocket. "Gate B47. Boarding at 8:10. I should probably head over." Wilson studied Marcus's face, recognized the controlled dignity of a man who'd been wronged but wouldn't make a scene. "Sir, I hope this incident doesn't affect your opinion of North American Airways. I'm sure it was just a misunderstanding. Marcus's tone suggested it was much more than that. Wilson turned back to Sarah, his voice quiet now, disappointed rather than angry. You just told one of our best customers to ride Greyhound, a man who generates millions in freight contracts for this airline, a man who treats every employee with respect, regardless of their position. He paused. Let the words sink in. Maybe you should think about who really needs to find a different job. The silence that followed was absolute. Sarah stood behind the counter, her face white, her hands shaking. Jennifer Martinez was already on her phone calling management, initiating protocols. Marcus walked toward gate B47, his shoulders straight, his dignity intact. Behind him, he heard Wilson speaking to Jennifer, heard Sarah beginning to cry, heard passengers still recording, still sharing, still watching the aftermath of assumptions that cost everything. 3 months later, the transformation was complete. North American Airways implemented the most comprehensive bias training program in airline history. Real facilitators, interactive workshops, measurable behavioral changes. Sarah Collins became their lead diversity trainer, using her mistake to teach others. Marcus renewed his contract with strengthened anti-discrimination clauses. But the real change happened in smaller moments. Gate agents who now asked questions instead of making assumptions. Passengers treated with dignity regardless of their appearance. A systemic shift in how an entire industry understood respect. Marcus's father had been right. Treating people right really is good business. Sometimes the smallest assumptions have the largest consequences. Sometimes dignity delayed becomes justice demanded. Sometimes one quiet man in khakis changes everything. Your appearance doesn't determine your worth. Your bank account doesn't define your dignity. Everyone deserves basic human respect. Period. Hit subscribe for more stories, proving that respect costs nothing but pays dividends forever.